Hello and welcome to a new watercolour video. Today I've got this lovely set of watercolour paints to try out. It's the White Nights by St. Petersburg. So it's the 36 set and they're all in full pans. So these have been highly recommended to me by quite a few people in the comments. So they come in this plastic box and it folds out into a mixing palette as well. You also get a swatch card made of watercolour paper, and the mixing palette at the bottom actually comes off. You can remove that really easy, and that's quite handy because the whole thing is quite large, so it would take up quite a lot of desk space. But it's a very similar box, almost identical to the Cotman watercolour box. Okay, so I'm gonna get them all unwrapped and I'm gonna swatch them all out, do a few little tests with them, and then I'm actually going to paint a picture with them. So this is what the little pans look like. They're all beautifully wrapped, and on the wrapper all the information such as pigment, transparency, etc., that's all on the wrapper. I'm not exactly certain if they're professional quality or they're more student grade. The price suggests that they're more student grade because these were £62, so they're actually working out at less than £2 each for a full pan. Now when I opened them up, all of the pans weren't full. They'd kind of sunk down in the middle. They weren't like completely full, but I mean for that price, you can't really complain. You're still getting a lot for your money. Okay, so after opening a few, I noticed that a lot of them had dirt on the top. I'll just show you this orange one here, for example. It's got like a lot of like dust and muck stuck to the top of it, and then there was loads more like that as well. Some of them were so bad you would actually think they'd left them out to dry and then knocked a concrete wall down right next to them, because there was just a thick layer of dirt over the top and it was actually stuck on there. So the dust had actually fallen on there while the paint was still wet, because it wouldn't wipe off. So I had to clean them up. It wasn't too much of a hassle, so once I cleaned them up, they're absolutely fine. And I can honestly say that was the only problem that I found with them. Other than that, they seem like perfectly, really lovely paints. I just find it really odd that they would, first of all, let them get really dirty. They were obviously in a dirty environment while they were drying, so I find that really odd. And they've let them go out for sale in that state. I just find it a little bit weird. And I bought them from Jackson's Art as well, so you know, I've got them off a reputable company. If I hadn't got them off Jackson's, if I'd have ordered them off eBay or something, I might have thought I'd got some fakes. But anyhow, like I said, that was the only complaint really. Okay, so on to swatching them out, and they seem like really strong, highly pigmented colours. They seem really smooth, not many of them are granulating. They're nice and vibrant. There's a good mix of transparent and opaque, but I would say mostly transparent and semi-transparent. And the selection of colours is really good as well. Possibly a little bit heavy on the oranges, the golden there and the golden deep. I'm not sure, I don't think there's any need for both of those, because that Titan red is also really orange, but like all the others are a real great selection of colours. So this is the full chart swatched out, so I'll just go through them. So there's all the yellows and oranges across the top. I think it would have been better to have maybe like a nickel azo yellow or a Indian yellow. The yellows that is in there are pretty similar, and like I said, I think there's a little bit too many oranges, but apart from that, everything else is great. I mean, if you start with the ruby over to the right, that's a real pinky red, and then there's the cad red light. I don't think you would really need any more reds than that. That English red, which I think is like a Venetian red or something like that, that's quite nice, but it's not really something that I use very much. And then there's a good selection of pinks. The quinacridone rose magenta, it's just like the perfect pink, and then the carmine, and the Madder Lake, it looks a little bit red here, but it is more pink. And then there's two nice violets, a more reddy violet, and then a dark, more bluey violet. Perfect selection of blues. There's ultramarine, there's bright blue, which is phthalo blue, blue, indanthrene blue, cerulean blue, and indigo, and then there's a lovely turquoise there, which is really nice. And then a lovely selection of greens. I think out of all my watercolour sets that I've purchased so far, this is the best selection of greens. That olive green is just gorgeous. And apart from there isn't a really dark green, which I always love a really dark green, and I usually have to make it myself until I discovered perylene green. I think all the greens that you could need are kind of covered there. And then there's about 6 different browns, which is absolutely brilliant. I mean, if you include yellow ochre as a light tan brown, that makes it 7. But yeah, so there's like 7 earthy colours altogether. There's a sepia in there, which is just absolutely brilliant. So you can darken any of the other browns with the sepia. And then there's a neutral black and a Payne's grey. So I think all the colours you could possibly need are pretty much covered in this set. You could literally just have this one and only set, and I think you'd be absolutely fine. Okay, so I'm going to test them against some other professional paints just to see if they're the same kind of strength. So first of all, I'm going to do cerulean blue. So I'm only testing like for like. So I've got a cerulean blue also in Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith. There's not many colours I can actually test because I don't have the same colours in other brands. So most of them are blues. So the first one's the White Knight's cerulean blue. And then this is the Winsor & Newton cerulean blue. Now I think the Winsor & Newton might be slightly stronger, but cerulean blue is quite a weak colour. And then the third one's going to be the Daniel Smith, so I'll just try that one. So far so good. It looks pretty much equal to the other two. The colour's slightly different. I think the Winsor & Newton is a little bit colder. The Daniel Smith seems a little bit weaker but more granulating. But I mean, that White Knight, I actually think the White Knight is my favourite out of the 3. I think it's the nicest colour. They're all PB35. So, and I think I'm pretty sure PB35 is a more expensive pigment. So it's not like they're just using a cheaper pigment. Like I know some other cheaper brands and student brands that would use a different blue pigment and just name it cerulean blue, but the White Knights have actually used the PB35, which is good. Okay, so the next one where I had 3 different brands was the phthalo blue, which is PB 15.3. The White Knights just seemed slightly weaker, but just slightly weaker. The Winsor & Newton, you can see, looks a little bit stronger. And also the Daniel Smith looks a little bit stronger as well. But with it being phthalo blue, which is extremely strong, it doesn't really matter that that one's a little bit weaker, because I don't suppose that anybody uses it full strength anyhow, because it's just a super strong colour. Okay, so next is ultramarine, and the White Nights is a lovely strong colour. The next is the Winsor & Newton. Seems a little bit darker, but you can see the difference more when these three are dry, and that's the Daniel Smith. Now, once they're all dry, I think that the Winsor & Newton is actually darker, and it's definitely more granulating. So go and buy these tests just based on these three colours. They look like they are professional quality to me. Okay, so next I'm going to do a full painting with them, and I'm going to do one of the flower fairies. So this is just a study of somebody else's artwork. I'm not claiming it to be my own. It's actually by the artist Cicely Mary Barker. So I've just traced it out onto my watercolour paper, and I'm just starting out with really light layers. So I've made a mixture for the background colour. The colours are really strong. I actually only used a tiny little bit of that paint that I put out on the palette. It really did go a long way, so they are definitely highly pigmented and so easy to re-wet as well. The brush I'm using is fairly soft, and I only brushed it, 2 or 3 times, and I had a ton of paint on the brush and it was really strong. So they definitely seem to me more like artist quality paints. It's hard to believe that they are because of the price, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm not an expert in watercolour, but these do seem really high quality to me. They also layer really, really well. The colour seems to really stick to the paper. Now, I'm not sure if that's the paper or the paint. They do seem like fairly staining though. Even the ultramarine, I tried to lift some of the ultramarine out of the background, and some of it lifted up, but it was still stained fairly blue underneath. But that could just be the paper. I mean, ultramarine is normally a paint that you can lift easily, but it didn't. This one didn't seem to lift, which obviously makes it much better for layering. But it is quite a smooth ultramarine. It doesn't have a lot of granulation, so it might actually be a little bit more staining than a more granulating ultramarine. Okay, so that's the White Nights by St. Petersburg. I think they're really lovely paints. They seem like professional quality to me. I would definitely recommend them, but I haven't used them extensively, just for this painting and the swatches that I've done. I can't really find any difference between these and my other professional paints. So you do get a lot of paint for your money, and these are just going to last me so long because I've only used a tiny little amount of paint for this full picture. So I'm just going to add some music to the background for the rest of the video if you want to watch the rest of the painting process. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions or anything, just put them in the comments below, and I should have another video up hopefully next Sunday or next Monday.